How could carrying two square things in your hands result in a freak-up? That's a great question, and we've got a story on that one in just a bit. But first, today I freaked up my dad with a suspicious text and told my mom. Hello everyone, I've never really made a post before, but I really wanted to get this off my chest because I've never been so scared. I'm a 29-year-old guy with no real social life. My only social exposure is online with friends I've made in video games and my immediate family. I like going out to dinner with my grandmother and dad, from my father's side. Stepdad, but I'm not sure if it's really relevant in the end. And we went to a local restaurant. While we were eating and chatting, specifically about current political events, it's probably exactly what you think, I glanced over and caught my dad getting a text message from someone. I'll call her Abby. I didn't get the full context, but it was on Snapchat, and her message to him said something like, "Blank, I love you so much, thank you, blank," with something about someone named Dan, another placeholder name. I did see a different name. I didn't get to fully see it, honestly. Sorry, but I know my dad, and I know what is and isn't okay with my parents. I really wanted to ask about it, but wasn't sure if it was okay because it felt invasive. However, I felt burdened with the knowledge and didn't think it was okay to ignore. Later, we dropped my grandma off and we were walking to our respective cars when I stopped him and asked, "Hey, I'm sorry, this'll be awkward, but who's Abby?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I told him I saw a woman message him and that he replied about going out with family. Now, I guess I can't really convey this clearly, but I know my dad. In other scenarios, he would have immediately told me what's going on. I gave him pretty obvious information. He was playing dumb, and it kind of solidified my beliefs and fears. It almost felt like it was the confession, but can you make me say it game. So I told him I saw another woman say I love you. He took a second to think and said, "I'll tell you later when we start driving." So I said, okay. To me, that was progress and acknowledgement. So I got in my car, he got in his, and I started driving. After 5 minutes, I decided I guess I'll call him. Once I rang, he picked up and said hi, and if it's important, he answered like it was the first time we spoke that day, like I was expecting him to kind of know where to start the convo, but it was a hello like it was some surprise. Anyways, I asked him, "Hey, I need to know what that text was about," and he said, "What text?" And I was getting anxious, and I told him the one about Abby. He sighed and said, "Abby is an ex of mine, and she started talking to me one day about how her husband divorced her. She was confiding in me about the divorce. I asked, 'Does mom know about this?' And he said it hesitantly, 'No.'" He literally did that pause, I'm not even kidding. Well, I told him, "That's something I think mom would want to know, because that's not normal. You're married, dude." He just said, "I know," and did a nervous giggle. At this time, I felt dissatisfied, because my dad is my hero. I really look up to him. He's always been a get-the-job-done kind of dude. He's silent and observant. He's my stepdad, and it wasn't the best at first, but he really shined to me over the years. It was hurting to see him pussyfoot around like this. Like any other time, even with sensitive information in the family, he speaks immediately, clearly, and wholly. This just felt wrong, so I pushed him, saying, "I feel like this may be overstepping, but as much as this is your wife, she's my mom. It would make me feel much better if you told her this person was chatting with you, because I'm sure over 2 decades isn't worth the sneaking around like this. If you just told her, 'Hey, my ex messaged me, what do you make of this?' She would understand, but knowing you're talking to another woman you once had a romance with and keeping it from her would hurt her a lot." He said, "I know, and I will." I felt happy with that, so I left it at that. I later got home, but I guess my mom asked my dad to go out and pick up my sister, naming isn't really important, who had been out somewhere. I don't really know. I had called my mom, and that's what she said. I asked her something about her day and stuff, but then I decided to put up a safety measure. I told her, "Hey, Mom, this is going to sound scary in an anxious way, but do not panic. I need you to listen to me, please." She said, "Okay, what's up?" I told her I encountered something today, and I told Dad to tell you. It's not something you should lose sleep over. Just know I expect Dad to tell you something when he's home. Let's give it until Saturday. Just to let me know if he says anything or not. Trust me, if he tells you, you'll know. Don't tell him I called you." She said okay. I told her I love her and to sleep well. I didn't put times before, but the dinner was at 7 p.m. I saw the text at some point halfway through, and we left at 8 p.m., then dropped Grandma off at around 8:45 p.m., and that's when I confronted my dad. I got home around 9 p.m. and called my mom pretty much as soon as I got in the door. So I'm sitting and waiting, and 10 p.m. hits. I text my mom if he said anything, and she says no. My dad goes to bed at 10 p.m. for work. I kinda cracked, because next thing I knew, I was putting on my jacket, and I texted my mom, "Don't go to bed, I'm coming over." I know I said to her, "Let's wait until Saturday," but I felt compelled to confront the situation. To me, him not saying anything was cowardly, not what my dad would have done. This isn't standing on business, this is evasion, and I just drove over. I parked in the street by their house and used my key to let myself in. We have keys to each other's houses because I live alone, and if I needed help or anything, I could go there and they could check on me. My mom was expecting me and sitting in the living room. Two-story house, dad and sister are upstairs. I asked my mom where dad was, and she said he's in bed. I said I need him to come downstairs and that there needs to be a talk. My mom, who I told not to worry, clearly was shocked because I'm acting shook as freak and not like someone who thinks this is normal and nothing to get scared about. Anyways, she calls him down and he said, "What's up?" I look at him and say, "Listen, this is my mom. You need to tell her." And this guy has the nerve to say, "Tell her what?" in an irritated voice. I won't lie, I got really scared, as I don't think I've ever stood up to my dad. There wasn't a reason to, but it's like standing up to an animal. Kept thinking about a lion and crap, but I thought to myself that I won't be pushed away from this, because it was eating me up. So I stood on business and said, "You need to tell my mom about the texts I saw on your phone at dinner." And my mom snapped her head towards my dad. I guess it's important to say my dad was on a couch and my mom in a recliner, where they were facing each other, but the recliner's in the corner of the room, so she was like pivoted a little towards me and him. I was standing up. I think my dad kind of buckled under the pressure and started off with, "About 3 months ago, Abby started messaging me," and while talking, my mom looked over at me and with a concerned expression and the softest voice said, "It's okay, you can go home, I'll handle this." And dudes, I started getting all emotional because that felt like I know about this, I don't want you to be here for this. So I look back at my dad, who's still looking at the ground, and start feeling the weirdest blend of sad, angry, and I just left. Drove home, and here we are. Why am I in the "Today I Freaked Up" Reddit? I'm not sure if it was the right call. I didn't see him say anything bad back to her. I feel like I reacted to things I shouldn't have because it wasn't my place. I made deals with both my parents to do things, dad to tell her with his words, mom to wait for something to happen by Saturday. I think I rushed this. I don't actually know what's going on. I'm scared because I think letting it happen naturally was the more mature thing to do. I'm scared, guys. Yeah, I gotta say, there's a lot of needless meddling here. It really isn't your business, it really isn't your place to out it. In the grand scheme of things, probably not a huge deal, but you're making it an awkward and huge deal, OP, so yes, please, just step aside, my friend, please. X Grayson Drake X replied, "Man, here I was thinking OP was going to find out his parents were swingers." And Shad Drag replied, "It's okay when dad meets with other daddies." Also, hey everybody, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Today I Freaked Up videos, it would be amazing if you like the video or commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. Now then, our next story is, today I freaked up by trying to meal prep like a professional chef. I decided this week I was going to be a responsible adult and meal prep lunches for work. I lined up all the containers, cut veggies with surgical precision, even made a little playlist so I'd feel like a Food Network star. The mistake? I massively overestimated both my fridge space and my math skills. Instead of 4 days worth of lunches, I've ended up with something like 20 servings of chili crammed into every conceivable container in the kitchen. I have chili in Tupperware, chili in old yogurt tubs, chili in a mixing bowl covered with foil. The fridge looks like it had been overtaken by a bean cult. My whole house smells like chili too. Well, it would certainly be a shame to waste all of this delicious chili, but Grayscale Unicorn 00 is thinking exactly what I was thinking when they said, "Freeze it, winter is coming, and chili will be good." Our next story is, today I freaked up by tasting pasta. I was making dinner for my family and was using bow tie pasta. It doesn't cook as fast as other pasta we normally use, but I prefer it. My preferred way of testing the doneness of pasta is to taste it, be it spaghetti, ziti, or bow tie. I always taste it. I know some people use the stick-to-the-wall method, some cut it with a knife or just feel it, but I prefer to taste so I know it's the texture I like. I'm standing in the kitchen, and it's looking about done. I go to scoop one out, and I can tell by the way it feels on the spoon, it's not ready. I blow on it and taste it anyways, and I was right. Not done. A bit more time goes by, and I test it again. Blow on it, chew it, and now it's getting close, but it's not quite there. Third time's a charm, right? That's what I thought, too. I scoop one out, blow on the top, and put it in my mouth. Well, I didn't know until the moment it hit my tongue, there was a small pocket of hot, had-been boiling water under the bow tie. I tried to spit it out, but it was too late. I burnt my tongue. Badly. There's blisters on my lip, and I can't taste anything. My tongue really hurts and feels like it's been scraped by sandpaper or something. Let this be a lesson, folks. If you're gonna taste test the doneness of your pasta, for the love of linguine, let it cool properly first. Edit to add, I don't time my pasta. I tend to go more with look and feel unless I'm doing a baked dish. I think everybody listening to and reading this story has been there at some point or another. I personally do this more frequently than I care to admit with frozen pizzas that you heat up in the oven, and I try to eat them like before they've had a chance to cool and end up just scorching my mouth, and then it's burned for the next week. So OP, I feel you. I totally feel you. Raptor Grin replied, "This is what I call danger noodles. I pretty much only use the super danger noodle shapes for baked recipes, which are less molten." And Everyone is Gay added, "Always use a fork." Our next story is, "Today I freaked up by making my crush a bit too obvious. I work in retail and have a small crush on a coworker. For multiple reasons, I don't plan on making any moves, and I know it will eventually pass. Whenever we're working together, I always find myself stealing glances at him. Nothing too obvious, or so I thought. I know it's cringeworthy, but I can't help it. Only thing is, today, near the end of my shift, I sat down in the break room because I was feeling too anxious to work. A friend of mine and my crush were both on their breaks. I had talked to my friend about university stuff until her break was over, and once she left, I started scrolling on TikTok. My crush and I didn't make eye contact or talk for a while after that. Eventually he said, "I wish I could do that." And I asked, "What?" He said, "Just sit there and do nothing." I asked why not, and he said, "Because you're always watching me." I couldn't even think of a response for a few seconds because of how shocked I was. I denied it, said that even if he did, I wouldn't say anything, to which he didn't even respond. My shift finished at the same time as his break, and until we left, we talked a bit about various topics, but with a lot of awkwardness in the air. To make it worse, I was stuttering, and I'm pretty sure my face was a bit flushed too. For obvious reasons, I won't, but part of me wants to quit work and never show my face there again because of how embarrassed I was. Was I really being that obvious? It's awkward, and even more so because it doesn't seem like he's really into UOP unless he has a weird way of hiding his affection as well. I don't know, but yeah, it is what it is. Out of Money Error replied, "You kept watching me. Why? You look like my first husband. I didn't know you were married. I was never married." Our next story is, "Today I freaked up by lasering my arms. Lasered them young because my mom kept bugging me, to an extensive amount, about the hair, and I hated the post-shaving texture too much to simply shave or wax. I miss them a lot. They grow now, but are patchy and not lush and continuous like before. I had around 8 sessions done 3 years ago, so this regret is more like a belated realization. If the patchiness was from an accident or against my will, I might have accepted my current status more, but now, anytime I see another person with the arm hair I used to enjoy, I get sad. I know it's something very minor to feel regret about, considering the larger scale of things, but this was a decision I had control over, and it's unlike me to do things against my own intuition when I'm in control. Anyone with such body-related regrets, how are you dealing with it? So I'm no expert here, but I feel like, is there possibly any kind of clinical way to get your arm hair to grow back? Any kind of topical or, I don't know, biotin, keratin that you can take? Like I said, I'm not an expert, not pretending to be. Someone comment down below. Can this person save their arm hair? MRSA223 replied, "Unfortunately, I only date people with lush and continuous arm hair." We replied, "Funny how we spend half our teens wishing body hair would disappear, then spend adulthood wishing it would grow back like a lush forest. Honestly, bodies are weird, regrets are normal, and most people are too busy worrying about their own insecurities to even notice your arms. If anything, patchy arm hair just means your body committed the ombre aesthetic before it was trendy." Our next story is, today I freaked up by inventing the worst pasta dish in human history. This happened about a decade ago, but the trauma still lingers. Back then, I had horrible migraines, 1 to 2 a month, and constant tension headaches, 3 to 4 a week. My doctor prescribed flavorless magnesium sachets to try out as a preventative measure. When I went to the pharmacy, I didn't realize the magnesium I got was orange-flavored because I just shoved it in my bag and went on with my morning. Cue to the stupid thing I did. I was at work at the daycare and we had spaghetti with cinque pie sauce for lunch. My brain had this gloriously stupid idea. Why not just dump my magnesium into the sauce? I mean, it's flavorless and it dissolves in water anyway, so I'll probably won't notice. Or so I thought. The idea was genius. 2 birds with 1 stone. 1 in a lifetime best idea ever. I was convinced this was a market gap the world has yet to exploit. So I fetched the sachet with the enthusiasm of an ignorant human asking for its doom and went into the kitchen with my plate to fill it. Then I ripped the package open and poured it over the sauce. I smelled a whiff of orange flavor. The powder had orange particles. It made me pause, briefly, because young me was stupid beyond measures. I figured the orange scent came from the orange fruits on the counter and the orange particles to be from the sauce, so I dismissed it. I continued to make my cursed dish not even heck would approve of and topped it off with grated cheese before sitting back to the table to eat. I took my first forkful of the abhorrent dish. Crunch. The magnesium made my spaghetti crunchy. That was the first red flag. The second was the taste, an unholy fusion of flavors no soul could endure. Artificial orange flavor, artificial sweetener, creamy tomato sauce with parsley and pepper, salt, cheese, spaghetti, all detonated in my mouth at once. It was like eating pasta mixed with gravel, dipped in Fanta, ketchup, and cheese. I almost puked on the table, but I had dignity and 20 kids watching, so I chewed, slowly, like the worst food criminal. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I was nauseous. I was inwardly screaming and crying, hoping for a divine intervention that never came, but outwardly, stoic as freak, all professional and grace. And because I hated myself, I told myself, if you made the soup, you have to eat it. I freaking doubled down because I'm a sucker for torturing myself with cursed dishes that shouldn't exist in any plane of existence. So I took another bite. It was worse, so much worse. My soul was weeping for salvation. I couldn't chew it, just swallowed it whole like a pill made of gravel and despair. That was it. I threw the rest in the trash where it freaking belonged. My stomach spent the whole day rebelling. It's been almost 10 years and I still cannot eat cinque pie sauce or drink or eat anything with artificial orange flavor. The PTSD is real. Brutal, yeah, that sounds awful, and that's definitely something that would give you food PTSD and never want to try any of those associated flavors ever again. Never tried it, will never try it, but yeah, I'll take your word for it that it was traumatic. The Irish Goat replied, "Bad food memories can be extremely tough. As a kid at a holiday party, there was some dish that looked like green Jell-O with whipped cream, with shrimp on the rim of the bowl. I don't even remember if it was cooked or just a garnish. I was a kid. I looked at it and thought, this is great. I like all of these things. The Jell-O whipped cream mixture apparently also had alcohol. I spent the night and part of the next day throwing up green-tinted shrimp. Well over 2 decades later, and the smell of shrimp, crab, and lobster all make me nauseous." Our next story is, today I freaked out by verbally abusing my phone. So, after work, I decided to stop by Sonic and get a slushie. I had my window rolled down, waiting to get my order taken, and my phone kept freezing up and getting on my nerves. I said something to the effect of, "OMG, hurry up, you're so stupid." Then I hear the girl on the intercom say, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, there's just one cook and me in the front tonight, so we're going as fast as possible. We'll be right with you." And that's when I realized I freaked up. I quickly said, "Oh, no, I was talking to my phone, not you. I'm so sorry, please take your time." I was mortified. Luckily, by the time I pulled up to get the slushie, the girl was laughing about it, and I apologized again. She even gave me the drink for free. I guess moral of the story is to be mindful of how I talk to my phone. LOL. Well, in fairness to this employee, It would make more sense that you would be a rude customer talking about how long the service is taking and not just talking to your phone, but hey, I mean, simple misunderstanding, no harm, no foul, and you got a comped drink, so who's really is the loser here, right? ZOE replied, honestly, this is why I never verbally abuse my phone in public. Someone innocent always ends up catching the stray bullets. Glad she laughed it off, though, because nothing screams rock bottom like beefing with both your phone and the Sonic crew at the same time. Our next story is, today I freaked up by not learning how to use a urinal properly. Obligatory not actually today, but instead was when I was a kid, but I've been reminded of the story and thought it would be funny to share. While growing up, I was a stupid kid and had never really used a urinal much. I would always prefer to use a stall because for a while I couldn't actually reach them, so I would only actually get to use them if my dad held me up to use them. And using them was also scary to me since there were no doors like stalls had. So I didn't really have any experience on using them and they had never been explained in much detail to me. One day I was a bit older and taller. I was out and had to use the bathroom quite badly, specifically a poop. So I went off alone to use the bathroom. However, upon getting into the bathroom, all of the stalls were occupied. I waited for a short amount of time, but I couldn't wait that long. Then I looked around and saw a bunch of free urinals, especially one that was lower down, so much more accessible for someone my size. Now I reiterate that I was dumb, because unfortunately, I wasn't aware that urinals are used for peeing and peeing only. So I did exactly what you're probably expecting. Pulled down my pants, turned around and sat down in the urinal and started taking a crap. People were walking by the whole time, probably wondering why some kid was shitting in the urinal, but no one stopped me, so I finished my business, leaving a turd in the middle of the urinal. Then I needed to wipe, but obviously there's no toilet paper at urinals, so I figured it was like peeing at a urinal where you normally do a little shake to get the pee off. So I shook off and pulled my pants back up to my unwiped butt, washed my hands and left the bathroom. Upon returning to my parents, I had mentioned how it was weird not having toilet paper to wipe with, which my dad then asked what I was talking about. Upon hearing my explanation of what I had done, he dragged me back to the bathroom and walked towards the urinals where he saw a group of boys standing and laughing while staring and pointing at the urinal where my Triumph was still sitting perfectly. My dad then embarrassingly cleaned up my, now covered in piss, urinal log while he sent me to wipe myself properly in one of the stalls. To this day, it still gets brought up by my family to mock me, but to be fair, I can't really blame them. I was quite an idiot. Well, I think the only way to handle this story is with self-deprecation. I mean, you can't try to defend yourself. Just laugh, tell the story, we all laugh too listening. And yeah, thank you for sharing. Only Right Angles replied, your dad is a champion for taking care of it himself instead of leaving an employee to deal with it. The things I've dealt with, cleaning bathrooms. And the OP replied to this, yeah, he's a great person. He'll always reach into a public urinal to pull out his kid's turd if it's the right thing to do. He's a great role model, honestly. Our next story is, today I freaked up by letting my friends know I hate gnomes. I, 26-year-old male, messed up by letting my friends know that I do not like gnomes. I don't mind garden gnomes, just to be clear. I think they're perfectly fine outside where they belong. The rest, however, the holiday gnomes, like the ones on pillows and plushies, however, I just think they're tacky. I don't know why. They just rub me the wrong way when I see them. It started years ago when I started seeing Valentine-themed gnomes holding hearts on pillows, and since then, I've harbored a slight hatred for them. Maybe a little bit more than slight. My friends, when they found out about my distaste for them, well, they did what any good friend would do. They exploited it. To be clear, I don't have a fear of them. I'm not afraid of gnomes. I just get unreasonably annoyed when I see them in my vicinity. So my friends started buying me gnome-themed gifts. At first it was like, haha, whatever. But I didn't want the little bastards in my room, let alone within 10 feet of me. So I started a game. I would hide the gnome they gave me in their house, and they would do the same to me. The rules of the game were this. 1, it has to be out in the open. No hiding in drawers or behind items. I set this rule because I didn't want them going through my stuff to hide the fucker. 2, if you're caught riding the gnome, it goes back with you. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's basically it. Not a lot of rules to a game surrounded by hiding a bright pink disco-themed gnome. Yes, that's the one they bought me. Well, my friend, F is what I'm going to call her, is very enthusiastic about this game. So much so that she decided to kick it up a notch. I recently went on vacation. F and her fiance would stop by my house to watch my cats and make sure they were fed. I came back, and while I was talking to F's fiance in my bedroom, he drove me home from the airport, I started to spot little tiny gnomes all around my bedroom. They were the size of a dime, and at first I thought it was one or two. Nope. The more I looked, the more I realized she had hidden gnomes all around my room. Her fiancé got on the phone with her, where she then thusly informed me that I had about 50-something gnomes to find. She had hidden them in my room, in the kitchen, and in my bathroom. I called her a cruel, cruel woman, and she cackled like the witch she is. I'm still currently finding them, but I've managed to find about 50 so far. I think I have at least 5 more to go. I thought I was safe because I hid the disco gnome in a place they wouldn't find it and re-hide it, which they often do when I'm not home and they stop by my place. My friends/roommates refuse to help me, which I think is rude considering we've been infested by tiny little pests in large pointy hats. I hid the gnomes I've found just in case they decide to have some fun and re-hide the ones I already found. Wish me luck. Alrighty then, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this. I hope you find them all. Slave 35 replied, sounds like she gave you no mercy. Ta-doom-cha. So we replied, bro, this isn't a prank anymore. You're basically living through the gnome ultimatum. At first, it was one disco gnome. Now it's 50 sleeper agents hidden in your walls, waiting for their moment. You don't have a home. You have a gnome base. Our next story is, today I freaked up carrying 2 square things in my hand. I have a SIM card to track my sleep information on my CPAP. I took the card out of the CPAP to transfer the stuff to my computer and started holding it in my palm. I didn't want to lose it on the way to my computer. I got distracted on the way to the computer by an open chocolate bar. I popped 2 pieces, which are square for this brand, out of the pouch. One went into my mouth, the other one went in my palm to put next to the computer. When I got to the computer, I was ready for the next piece of chocolate. I messed up. The soft piece of chocolate was squished into the SIM card hole of my computer while the SIM card was popped into my mouth and crunched before I processed the situation. Now I need a new SIM card and to find a way to clean chocolate out of a computer port. Whoops. Alrighty then, another banger. Yeah, don't really know what to say about this. Yeah, how do SIM cards taste? BP Smith, 1972, replied, I stupidly had my meds in one hand and my dog's meds in the other. I'm sure you can figure out what happened. It wasn't a major medication, but I felt really stupid. Alright, everybody, that's all the time we got for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. I got nothing else for you. I will see you all next time.